Hey everyone, it's Evan Kirstel here today with another fascinating guest. Today I have Albelasco, who is head of Media Core and the applications business at Radisys. Al, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks, Evan. How about yourself?
I'm doing very well for these dog days of
Yeah,
August. So, Al, before we jump into our topics today, maybe give us some background. I've known you professionally for, gosh, what, 20 years maybe across different journeys,
yep.
but introduce yourself to the audience, if you would.
Sure, I will. Thanks again, Evan, for this opportunity. My name is Albelasco. As you said, I'm responsible for one of our lines of business within Radisys. It's kind of a combination of a new and old product line for Radisys. The core of this, the offer in this business is built around our media server product, which is used in many different applications in the telecommunications space, as well as in the enterprise communications, UC, and customer care spaces as well. For example, Zoom uses our product as a foundation for their conferencing. Nokia has integrated our media server, and it serves as the media resource function in 4G and 5G networks. What we've built over the past couple of years, really at the request of our customers who are trying to understand how else can I leverage this technology, which sits in my network or my data center or the cloud that my IT is managing. What else can it do, and how can I take advantage of that? So we've really started to focus on extending the reach and capabilities of the product to appeal to users and developers who are not really don't really have a lot of telecom expertise, but know that they need to add these communications capabilities to their digital services and applications. So it kind of brings together that media processing heritage that we have, as well as opening up the capabilities to a new set of application developers. And I've been at Radisys since 2010. In that period, we've helped our customers on this journey of evolving their technology from physical network functions to virtual network functions, and today to containerized and microservices-based capabilities, which themselves actually enable new types of applications for the technology to be used. And I'm sure we'll talk about that more today. And before that, I've worked in various roles in the telecommunications and enterprise communication space, including at Avaya, Brook Trout Technology, and a couple of other startups here in the Boston area.
Indeed, yeah, Brook Trout, one of the greatest names in telecom history. For many of us around 128, we remember seeing Brook Trout, really kind of a legend in the voice communication space. But tell us, this industry has, been around for 20 years, media and processing and signal processing and DSP. But give us an update on the current landscape, because for many of us old hats, we think, oh yeah, media processing. But what's changing out there in the telco landscape and with edge and with 5G, et cetera?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the fundamental changes really over the past 5 to 10 years has been the ability to take these capabilities of voice, video, messaging, and now a new wave of features that can help customers and users gain insights from the interactions using AI and media, AI and machine learning technologies like computer vision and speech processing, speech recognition, and so on. And some of those underlying capabilities now make these applications even more, well, applications for the technology even more interesting, not only as standalone solutions where you might, you think about conferencing like a Teams or a Zoom. That's a kind of stovepiped application, has a lot of utility. But once you start to take these capabilities and integrate them into business processes and workflows and other applications, that's when it really, the value of these capabilities is really compounded. I mean, one of the kind of prototypical examples here, I'd say, is Uber. Uber is not a communications application. Uber is a ride-hailing application or ride-sharing application, but fundamentally, there are some critical communications capabilities that make that make that application much more usable and valuable to customers. And there's many different examples of that, and I'll talk about some of those as we go forward here. But I think that's one of the kind of critical changes.
I mean, at a surface level, we see a lot of same applications, but the underlying architectures and tools and APIs have just changed so radically. Tell us about this move to open, whether it's Open RAN with 5G and open APIs and other standards. I mean, the developer, economy in telecom is on fire, and I know you're a little bit unknown. You're sort of behind the scenes enabling a lot of this.
Yeah. In fact,
tell us what you're seeing.
That's an interesting point, just for people to understand and recognize. I mean, they may say, what's this Radisys brand? Who is Radisys? I mean, we've been around for 30 years, and I would venture to say that just about anybody in your audience here is somewhere along the line, maybe even on a weekly or even day-to-day basis, using our technology in some form or fashion. They might not even know. In fact, many of our customers, who are often the largest mobile operators in the world, have us sitting in the core of their network, and they don't even know it, because they might source the technology from a Nokia or a Mavenir and others. I think that it's really from a perspective of being open. We've always looked at our technology as kind of standards based and providing interfaces that are open and well documented. But there's another kind of transformation that's happened to enable some of these new applications and services to create more accessibility to the technology, and that accessibility provides a number of benefits to users. So being able to reach people who don't necessarily have to understand telecom, whether it's a mobile application developer, a web application developer, a business process developer, is really critical. I mean, there are companies like Twilio and others that have proved the value of this. And now what Radisys is doing is providing that same type of accessibility, very simple to use APIs and tools, including low code, no code tools that even a product manager like myself, or a business process owner, or a service manager can use to adapt to changing conditions without having to get in a queue for an application development team. And that adaptability is really, it's the accessibility and that adaptability that's really critical these days. I mean, what the pandemic has accelerated a lot of trends and amplified them. Things like workforce adaptability, where people are, when they're available. Their availability and location may vary based on particular conditions in an area, and that extends beyond things like the pandemic and lockdowns to emergency situations, weather-related changes. So it's that kind of combination of things that we've really focused on. And we've seen proof points in the market, like that Twilio example that I mentioned. And what are we doing beyond what's already out there? Providing these capabilities and enabling them to be deployed in many different fashions. You mentioned Edge earlier. A lot of these services, traditional services today in this programmable communication space, have really been public cloud enabled, and that's benefits to that are accessibility, low barriers to entry from a cost point of view. But it's also constraining in terms of the applications that can be supported. Right, there's when you're on an uncontrolled network, latency, availability, maybe challenges. There are issues potentially with privacy and data sovereignty, where a customer might want to say, I want this application to be contained in my network or in my location. That location could be at a telco edge, that could be on a customer premise. So that flexibility to deploy these solutions is one of the areas that we deploy these solutions in many different ways, is really one of the critical things that we've focused on. And like I alluded to earlier, enabling new capabilities, sort of the first wave of these digital services and these open APIs for web and business application developers. Really, we're focused on some basic functionality, SMS and voice calling and conferencing. But now the ability to use this technology to gain insights from those interactions. Is the person that's interacting with another human being, a customer interacting with a sales rep or a customer care rep, are they satisfied or they're engaged. There might be cues that the person they're talking to might not pick up on that the application can sense, and then trigger some other actions like bringing in a supervisor to monitor the conversation. Remote learning and training is, we've got dozens of people on this conference call. Are they actually paying attention? Are they present? Even, a lot of these things for security and surveillance types of applications. Are there somebody in a room or an object in a location that shouldn't be there? That's another aspect that we're adding that's not really very well developed in the market for these public cloud-based solutions. And even if the features are there, the ability to leverage them in a very high-performance, highly responsive way is missing, and that's what we bring to the table. And then being able to apply, what we've done, the characteristics of our product, what we're really known for in terms of scalability, reliability, mission critical applications. That's what we can enable. If you go and, if a customer goes and looks at some of these public cloud-based services and says, what kind of SLA am I going to get? Once you read between the lines, the SLA is, well, whatever we can control will give some level of service availability. Yeah, essentially best effort. And by the way, whatever's outside of our control, nothing we can do. And pretty much most of the infrastructure they're using is really outside of their control. So AWS goes down, it's not my problem.
Yeah, it's interesting how real-time communications has now become critical to everyone, including us in business. The quality of this video feed, the quality of our voice, the echo cancellation, jitter, noise. You could say live streaming is superfluous, but this is how we live and work and play now. And all these technologies we took for granted in the old PSTN, we don't anymore. And I assume you're doing a lot at the cutting edge of, video, maybe conversational AI. What other use cases are kind of out there that customers are building on?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, video, even though video has become more prominent over the past few years because of the conditions driven by the pandemic, Skype and TikTok and these other social networking types of applications, and especially the younger generations really are so accustomed to using video to interact. The quality of the experience now becomes more and more important as users who may not have grown up with that experience. It becomes more critical. The accessibility of the technology. Can I interact via video based on my preferred device? And especially for a lot of older people, that could be even they might be on their first or second generation of smartphone. One of the things that we can do is even enable a mobile 4G or a 5G audio call to be video enabled, and there may be some complementary services that customers are interested in. I can, if I'm interacting with an IVR and I'm going to be transferred to a live person, in that transfer, a video over LTE, a video clip over LTE can be played, and it can be contextual, and that can add a lot of value to that interaction. It can be an opportunity for a business to advertise a new service that appeals to this particular, the profile of this particular user. But one of the other aspects of video, even with its growth in usage, is the experience is often the same. I mean, in some form or fashion, you have like a Hollywood Squares view for most of these sessions. And in some markets and applications, like in gaming and starting to see in some industrial applications, much more immersive experiences. People think of the next leap is virtual reality, but even augmented reality, even on a two-dimensional screen, can be very valuable for applications like learning or troubleshooting or even selling. And that's really one of the things that we're focused on, is enabling those more immersive experiences. And that goes beyond just video, but also audio, spatial audio.
That's a great point. I mean, spatial audio, if anyone hasn't tried it, either for music or in a collaboration call or in like Clubhouse, it's a game changer. I mean, it really, it puts you there, and it's a close, it's kind of like the metaverse, but it actually works and you can get spatial audio in different services today. So how do in the old days of working with companies like yourselves, you would buy pretty raw technology boards and and servers, and you'd be programming in like, low level code, and it was pretty hardcore. But I think you guys have opened up the market to a whole new breed of developers. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point, Evan. We have always appealed to the specialists who understand telecom, understand telecom networks, and kind of piece together the solutions. But as we've moved, you mentioned open earlier. One of the other aspects of open for us really has been this evolution from these physical network devices, which were very relevant because the compute power and off-the-shelf servers wasn't very cost effective to support high scale applications, especially even with voice, but especially as you start to get into video. But now moving to the ability to use off the shelf compute, public cloud, private cloud implementations. One of the things we have focused on is creating this higher level software platform that exposes the capabilities of the media processing and other features as well. I mentioned, we talked about messaging earlier, being able to support messaging, whether it's SMS, RCS, or through omni-channel interactions with via WhatsApp and other tools that people use.
But interesting question here from Ashish on LinkedIn, asking about video analytics, which, as we know, is fundamental for creating streaming businesses and other business services, and also security, which we take for granted in a lot of times, but we shouldn't. Things like small cell use cases. I didn't realize Radisys was involved in these kind of applications as well.
Yeah, in fact, I think that's a critical subject here when we talk about the new capabilities that we've added. We tend to think about collaboration, UC, and contact center for some of the traditional features in voice and video capabilities, but with the cost-effective enablement of conversational for conversational interactions, for speech processing, being able to recognize and use natural language understanding to infer what somebody's looking for, leaps and bounds beyond the traditional IVR, moving into video analytics. I mean, there's cameras everywhere, and being able to leverage cameras, especially cost-effective, low-cost cameras in a campus or in a city or on a manufacturing plant, opens up a lot of different applications, for our technology. And I think there's a second bucket we will look at as Industry 4.0 applications, and providing these building blocks in a very accessible way and a very cost-effective way are important for some of these new applications, especially with 5G ramping up and more and more connected devices that have media capabilities, not just the ability to message between send text messages between robots. Opens up these new applications with very high value. So one of the areas of focus now is really taking this technology and bringing it to making it accessible to developers in these new vertical industries, again, where they may not have an understanding of telecom, but they don't need to have that to be able to leverage these capabilities. And we introduced this platform we call Engage Digital Platform earlier this year, which provides exposes these tools from low-level APIs to very high-level graphical design tools, depending on the developer and the problem that needs to be solved, or the user and the problem that needs to be solved. But one important note is we've actually been building and delivering applications on this technology over the past 2 years. So it's already proven. And then we extended this offer to enable, facilitate more innovation and build an ecosystem of developers outside of our company as well.
Fantastic. I'm curious, how much of the value add do you bring in terms of platforms and tools and APIs are in software versus hardware? And is it always a mix, or do you have one or the other?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it's predominantly software today. Our customers, we've really opened up to ensure our customers have the choice of the compute platforms they use, the data center cloud environments their own choice. We've integrated with many different management and orchestration environments to provide that flexibility, and that's one of the key benefits and differentiators of our platform. We also, with our heritage in being able to squeeze the most out of the hardware available and from those physical network function days, do a lot of work on optimization and supporting hardware acceleration for applications as well. So customer needs really high scale, we can support, and especially for some of these video and AI types of applications, they get more bang for their buck in using GPUs, and GPUs are available now in public cloud-based services.
Yeah, they're actually becoming affordable again from the.
Yeah, and it makes a big difference in terms of the ROI for these applications, especially when Ashish had asked about these security and surveillance type of use cases where you have thousands and thousands of cameras and video feeds that you're monitoring across a city or a neighborhood, and that scale is important. So we continue to work and focus on it with our customers on getting the most out of the hardware they use, and a lot of flexibility in what types of hardware they can employ.
Awesome. And you mentioned customers, you mentioned Zoom, you mentioned Nokia. I assume there's lots you can't talk about as well. But what about smaller companies, upstarts, the startups, the wannabe unicorns? I assume you work with lots of companies, small, medium, and gigantic.
We do, and one of the things we've really focused on is making these accessibility has multiple dimensions. The tools that appeal to to developers with different levels of expertise, or to users with different level of expertise, is one aspect of this. But also being able to provide these services and platforms and sandboxes so somebody can just turn it on and get started immediately in trying the tools. So we have cloud-based services that are available, so somebody can come to us, get accounts, we get a sandbox and start running. And we've got through the experience that we've had over the years, and also through this ecosystem of developers, we've got a whole bunch of starting point applications somebody can use out of the box, or they can take and start to modify. So, and that really makes it easy for us to reach even the smaller developers who don't have a lot of resources, but they have a lot of ideas, and that's really what we're trying to trying to attract. And as we've opened up this platform to many different types of developers, the spectrum of use cases is goes well. We have a lot of smart, innovative people in the company, but the types of things that customers are using this technology range from basic things like we've got a customer who wants to implement in their next generation network a talking clock. Basically, somebody can call in and they know the exact time, and that's a regulatory requirement. Got a customer in India who has a matchmaking service, and they want to enhance it with video capabilities. Then we start to get into some more sophisticated use cases like these smart city applications that Ashish was kind of pointing to earlier. It really is a broad and interesting spectrum.
Yeah, you mentioned India. I just can imagine, given the startup and app economy that's growing there, the opportunities. You sell and support customers all over the world, I imagine. Yeah,
that's right. We literally support. We literally have about almost 200 operators globally, from the AT&Ts of the world down to small MNOs. We've got hundreds of enterprise application developers, and literally tens of thousands of deployments in SMBs and enterprises through some of our channel partners in various markets like financial services, healthcare, security. So a lot of interesting applications in a broad ecosystem that we've already built. Interesting. Yeah, you mentioned MSPs and MSOs and the like. It's the boundaries are blurring between what is a telecom company these days. And I see Ashish mentions, MSIs and SIs are focused on UCaaS, and CPaaS is all the rage. Would you call yourself a CPaaS company, or do you enable CPaaS, or both? Yeah, it's interesting. It's one of the challenges we have is how do we label this, because it's sort of a Swiss Army knife of capabilities. Right. So some customer it can fall into that UCaaS category, it can fall into that CPaaS category, programmable communications, computer vision and video analytics. So it really depends on the context and the customer or the prospect that we're talking to, the types of use cases they're interested in, what market they're serving, and the vernacular we're using may change. But under the, essentially that is one of the kind of core markets that we're serving is this CPaaS. And we look at it as sort of a CPaaS 3.0 with some of these new capabilities. Whereas, just using the acronym CPaaS may have connotations about, traditionally around messaging and voice. So it's, sort of the next generation of communication
Fantastic.
platform
Well,
as a service.
so I'm just going to say you work with everyone in our space. So that pretty much covers the gamut. Well, thank you so much, Al, for joining. It's been great to catch up, as it were. And you're in Boston here. Just one final question. Isn't Boston the greatest tech and human city in the country? Wouldn't you agree with me on that?
I'd agree wholeheartedly. And the fact that we have four seasons and we're a great sports city also add to the
so many sports teams, so much winning.
Yes.
So yeah, absolutely. I know you're a huge sports guy, so we'll have to go to a game together. But thanks for the update. Thanks for the overview. Folks can catch it in the replay as well. And I look forward to all the updates and great news coming out of Radisys.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks for the opportunity, Evan. And as we were mentioning there, right, as we were getting to the
Thanks,
end, we can make this platform available to anybody who wants to get started and get their hands dirty. Happy to work with them.
Fantastic.
Okay. Have a good afternoon. Thank you.
You too.